Yeah, that's the issue. Hang on, maybe I better make sure this is right too. Okay, yeah, that's the issue. I'm not sure why kick didn't kick in. Uh, oh, kick did kick in. I just needed to re whatever it. Okay, great. So that's nice. And let me do this. And there we are. Okay. Um, I anyone hear me? And I'm going to have to double check that real quick somehow or the other. So let's see. Um, that's spinning for some reason. All right, I'm going to hear something in my whatever it. Okay, great. So that's nice. And let me do this. And there we are. Okay. Um, yeah, I need that a little louder. Okay, great. I think I'm okay. I anyone hear me? And I'm going to have to double check that real quick somehow or the other. So let's see. Um, that's spinning for some reason. All right, I'm going to hear something in my whatever it. Okay, great. So that's nice. And let me do this. And there we are. Okay. Yeah, I need that a little louder. Okay, great. I think I'm okay. Hmm. Well, thank you for your patience. I'm Grouchian. Welcome to the stream. I'm just going to go as far as I can today. I don't know when I'm going to kick off. I mean, gonna uh, exit, but here I am. And would note here that I did not post in advance anywhere that I would be streaming. I believe that Garrick has my explanation right there. So I've got a bunch of stuff lined up to talk about, and I've thought about all of this a little bit over the last couple days about streaming and about what I should do or shouldn't do, and at the end of the day, yeah, I just decided I probably should just be me, and this means that I'm going to just go over a few things that I think are interesting and offer some considered opinions for what they are worth. And so I've got a few things lined up, and I'm going to get to these. And this is stuff that has accumulated. Some of this over the past week, or in the case of at least one story, more. Excuse me. I'm drinking soda water, so I might be a little burpy. No, it's not booze. It is not. It is not beer or anything like that. It's sody water. Sodi agua. Agua de sodi. Okay. I can move that away and I can look at that again now. Great. All right. Now, from what I can see, whatever it is I'm saying live actually is coming back to me on the live stream on X about, I don't know, 10 seconds later, something like that. So if anyone does offer a comment or anything like that, it's going to take me a little while to figure that out. So there's a long, bouncy back and forth time here. So let's see, top of the world here. This is from a couple days ago, and I'm not really sure that this is really all that outrageous. It's from the Daily Mail. Outrage as Disneyland launches dystopian technology at park entrances. And I believe this very much goes along the same lines, and it's going to be the same thing as, if I've got my, yes, it's going to be the same thing as this. Basically the same idea that David Sachs, I think he's one of the all-in guys, isn't he? For whatever reason, my mouse is going like really slow all of a sudden. Anyway, I'm not seeing that, but you know, he's pretty big. Concerning, as I've said many times before, the biggest risk of AI isn't James Cameron's The Terminator, it's George Orwell's 1984. These two stories are related in that they are about the use of video technology and invasions of privacy. And frankly, that cat is well since out of the bag. If you're walking around in any major city in a number of nations, whether it is London, New York, LA, Shanghai, Beijing, Tokyo, I imagine, there are cameras everywhere. There's, for example, them saying, headline saying that this is dystopian. Well, when you dig into the details of this, and let's do this right now, Disneyland fans have voiced outrage after the park began rolling out facial recognition technology at entrance gates. The Walt Disney Company this week announced the tech will be introduced at Disneyland and California Adventure. Those are the two parks in Anaheim. I've been to both of them, with similar systems expected to go elsewhere. The company said the tech is designed to speed up entry into the parks and reduce ticket fraud. All well and good. At designated entrance lanes, see, it's not every entrance lane. It is designated entrance lanes. You can still buy a ticket, go to a lane that is not a designated entrance lane, hand them your ticket, and enter the park. You're not required to do the facial recognition thing. They give you a way to get in and out without using it. At designated entrance lanes, cameras capture an image of a guest's face and compare it to the photo taken when the ticket or pass is first used. So the idea here is you buy a ticket, you use it yourself. The system, and I've got a Disneyland story I'll tell in a few minutes. The system converts those images into unique numerical codes, compares them to verify identity, and deletes the data within 30 days unless it must be retained for legal or fraud prevention purposes. While the company emphasized that participation is voluntary and traditional entry lanes do not use facial recognition tech for guests, people have deemed the move dystopian and linked the technology to Big Brother. Okay, so the people doing this, about 99 out of 100 of them, outside of people under the age of, say, 9, are carrying a camera on them. They have a camera on their person, and they are taking video and photos in the park of themselves and their families doing stuff. And do you think other people do not get captured in those videos? Many question the Walt Disney Company's claim that the pictures will be deleted within 30 days, asking, why not immediately? If you've worked in loss prevention at any point in your life, the answer is pretty easy. Sometimes it takes a day or two to review footage and see that someone went on a nice little five-finger discount spree. However, other Disney fans highlighted that many companies use similar tech and were overjoyed that they will not have to wait hours in line. So the carrot here is speed and convenience. And you can get into the park more quickly to get in the long lines for the ride. So you're still going to spend a good bit of time waiting. You just spend less time waiting outside the gate, which is, I suppose, an improvement. The company said guests who wish to use the system are directed to enter through designated lanes marked entrance at park entry points. Those who choose not to participate may instead use the park's main entrances along the esplanade, where tickets are manually verified by staff rather than processed using biometric technology, i.e. facial recognition. Company guidelines state that children under the age of 18 may use the service only with the consent of a parent or guardian. The company has implemented technical, administrative, and physical safeguards designated to protect guest information from unauthorized access, disclosure, or misuse. The procedures are reviewed periodically as new tech becomes available, while acknowledging that no system can be guaranteed to be completely secure. And by the way, this will be this is entirely true of anything involving using AI at this point, because almost everyone is using AI online. I use Grok as an individual here, and my requests, my comments, my questions, my whatever to Grok, they all go through the interwebs and they hit a server at a central location. It is it's just the way that this is, and it's the internet. For anyone who needs to use AI or wants to use AI, but must for whatever professional reasons, for example, a lawyer's office or a doctor's office, something like that, where you have sensitive information, you have laws concerning how that information may be used, and you have laws concerning the security and containment of that information. Then you're looking at using local systems, and some folks are doing that now. Some folks are starting to do that. More will be. And it's this is just part of the gig. And Disneyland, while Disneyland is private property, it is in many respects a public-ish place, because it is a private enterprise which is patronized by the general public. And so, that the amount of privacy that you have going into Disneyland is limited to begin with. Someone named Kathleen Agbizit. Well, that is an interesting name, Agbizit. How do you get the name Agbizit? It was fine. It actually moved things along quicker. While John LeChauffe told the LA Times, pretty much every other place is doing the same thing. Well, okay, fair enough. The police, the government, they're all using facial recognition. I don't think it's going to stop. Correct. You forgot to mention banks. You forgot to mention department stores. You forgot to mention other businesses. Pretty much any public-facing business likely has cameras these days and likely has facial recognition technology, or they're working in that direction. There are some people say, it's a little scary because it's not clear how it's going to be used. They just told you how it's going to be used, and it may well be that that some organizations that institute these things will abuse them, but Disney is a very high-profile company. Because of how high-profile they are, people kind of keep an eye on them, and so there's a limited amount that Disney can get away with, really. At least in the short run. Maybe in the short run, there's a certain amount they could probably get away with. In the long run, it's usually not worth it, because once you get caught, the lawyers move in, because Disney's fat. And the lawyers see a bag to grab, and there some people go, well, the technology makes me feel uneasy. Yeah, get over yourself. Not to mention, and there have been a number of videos on the interwebs about featuring these things recently, including footage that was shared by shared about something Nick Fuentes did, Nicholas J. Fuentes, the midget anti-Semite, who Okay, anti-Semite is just a personal opinion based on what I've heard him say. If someone wants to tell me he's not an anti-Semite, awesome. You know, go on with your bad self. I stated my opinion based on what I've heard him say about issues related to people of the Jewish persuasion. Anyway, he got doxxed, and some crazy lady in her 50s showed up with a camera thinking that she was going to get a chance to do some video that would give someone else coming along later, allegedly, information about what the inside of his residence looks like, which would make a physical attack easier. And you know, and there was a time when I might have thought, well before 1980, where I would have thought, yeah, you know, whatever. I mean, you know, it's not that big a deal one way or the other. But then John Lennon got shot because he drew a crazy rabid fan who had some self-control issues and was clearly one taco short of a combo plate. And after that, of course, for anyone who achieves any level of celebrity, some level of security becomes de rigueur. It becomes necessary, and so yeah. So point being that that you have really no expectation of privacy once you step onto someone else's private property and they can see you using their home surveillance system, which is what happened to the lady who decided to knock on Nicholas J. Fuentes' door. And I'm not showing you the video now. You can go find it on the interwebs, probably a bunch of different places. He opens the door, immediately hits her in the face with some pepper spray, shoves her, and she goes a good, I don't know, 8-10 feet, something like that. Did not land on her head, fortunately. And then he goes and snatches her phone, goes back, he snatches her phone, goes back in the house, and shuts the door on her. He has since apologized, but the background for that was that he was doxxed, and he had someone else show up at a place where he was and bang on the door, and that guy that day had already killed a couple of people. So Fuentes is justifiably concerned about his security. Now, whether you believe that he's bringing this on himself through the rather onerous but still protected First Amendment speech that he exercises, you know, I understand. But he still has his First Amendment rights, and going after him violently, not cool. Coming back to the whole issue of cameras and this being dystopian, garbage. It's not dystopian. And the second story here, and this one goes very much to Tesla as well, and I'll explain. Puberty reported last week that every new car in the U.S. will be required by law to have tech that puts constant surveillance on the driver by 2027. Now, car companies are saying, oh, you know, we don't really 100% have this tech yet. And the idea here is that along with the camera, the car companies may be asked to install kill switches. I am 100% opposed to the kill switch. You know, when you look at the trying to get away from somebody, like if you are a woman and you are trying to get away from some big bruiser who has ill intent, and you jump in your car and you are panicked, and the camera misreads panic as intoxication and then refuses to start the car, you're screwed. So I can see situations where the kill switch is very, very counterproductive. But the Tesla angle on this, and again, Tesla has their FSD going. They have robotic. They have like robotaxis operating without drivers or monitors, other than the FSD itself, operating in at least 3 cities in Texas at the moment. And they are moving into, they have plans to move into other cities within the next couple of months. If you are operating a robotaxi, if you are the plan for Tesla is to sell these products, these robotaxis, the cybercab, cybertaxi, whatever they're calling it these days, to sell these to the general public. The idea being that that an individual could purchase a handful of these, maybe, I don't know, with a loan or whatever, and then start a small business managing, doing, making sure that the cleaning happens and all of this, managing a small fleet of autonomous vehicles that that are then lent out through the Tesla app for ride sharing. Humans being humans, there's going to be a small percentage of the population who may intentionally or unintentionally do something stupid. They may accidentally or on purpose damage the interior of a vehicle through cutting upholstery or dumping drinks or whatever. And as the owner of the vehicle obviously is going to want to be able to have that documented so that when they tally up the bill for fixing that stuff, and that gets taken out of the credit card number or out of the credit card of the person who hailed the ride. So there are very, very valid reasons that have nothing to do with monitoring drivers. As they've done DFSD trials, they've had the cameras on the drivers for years. And some people have complained about it a bit, but for the most part, people who buy Teslas understand the FSD thing, and they're all in for helping the technology to improve, and thereby helping the technology to advance. And this is going to redound to positive outcomes for, I'm going to say, billions of people worldwide over the next few years. So again, I understand the safety concerns, and the safety concerns which I am 100% opposed to. And I understand for individuals who own their own vehicles still and do not wish to have a camera watching them 24/7, the one kill switch that should be in the car is the one to turn off that camera that's watching you. That would be a fair and reasonable thing to do. Forcing the cameras on to everybody and then basically saying, oh, you're not allowed to turn them off, that's a bit intrusive. And it's a bit more intrusive actually a lot more intrusive to have a kill switch. So that's where I happen to sit on this. I think kill switches are a terrible idea, and I think cameras are completely justifiable. I think they're a fantastic idea, and I think that we're going to become accustomed a decade from now, when most people in most urban and suburban areas are doing most of their transportation in autonomous vehicles, where they're hailing a robotaxi and just jumping in and going where they're going without a driver in there. I think they're going to understand that a camera is part of the deal there, the same way that cameras are part of the deal when you go to Walmart or Disneyland. And that's kind of what I had to say about that. So let's kill that, and let's kill this, and let's see what's next. Again, this was last week. I have opinions about this. Lisa Kudrow and fantasies about caste as she exposes brutal treatment. I don't even want to read the story. Okay, the story is just the same usual woke garbage. one of the things that the story emphasizes is, oh, most of the writers were white men. And yeah, because most of the writers on most of those shows were white men back then. And you know what else was true about those shows? They were funny. They were a lot funnier than a lot of the stuff that shows up on TV these days. The sitcoms were funny. And say what you will about the writers who were hiring at the time, they were hiring writers based on who could tell jokes, based on who could write situations that were funny and write realistic character dialogue within those funny situations. They hired people who could make Chandler sound like Chandler. Wah, wah, wah. As well, Lisa Kudrow, I don't know how many of you remember this, but way back in the 1990s, when Friends was a thing. And by the way, Friends became a show because Seinfeld was successful, a show about nothing, and so Friends was a way of trying to capture similar magic, not the same exact magic, but similar magic. And Seinfeld's a group of four friends, and frankly, the four of them don't really have a lot of redeeming qualities, and that was kind of the point. It was, watching them with their self-centered selfishness and their flexible morals, shall we say, getting into situations and then getting out of them. Or in the case of the finale of Seinfeld, not really getting out of the situation. Friends is structured basically kind of like that, except it's 6 and it's 3 and 3, and they purposely cast a couple of guys. We're not going to count David Schwimmer. A couple of some people I guess like David Schwimmer. They cast 3 guys. At least 2 of them were kind of easy on the eyes, and they cast 3 women, none of whom were unattractive. So, and it was in like the 4 in Seinfeld, the 6 in Friends were all of them a little on the self-centered side. But the difference between Seinfeld and Friends, I think, is that the 6 in Friends probably had a little bit more of a sense of morality than the 4 in Seinfeld. And the friends were friends. They watched out for each other. And of course, because you had these 6 people, at least 4 of them were relatively attractive. The other 2 weren't ugly. Of course, there were, because it's Friends, friends lead to other things sometimes. So there were hookups and stuff. And when you look at the writing on the show, and you look at what the show was, after a couple of seasons when the show was really successful, it took a couple of years, I forget exactly how many seasons, but the 6 of them, because this was very much of an ensemble show, there was no head friend. Like Seinfeld, the show was called Seinfeld, and so it was Jerry and his 3 friends. And on Seinfeld, the 3 friends, not Jerry, but Seinfeld's 3 friends, did work together as a team to negotiate their salaries. And on Friends, because there was no lead friend, all 6 of them worked together to negotiate their salaries. And in the later seasons of the show, it got kind of expensive for the production company and the network, because what they negotiated for themselves was at the time, I mean, 1990s money, this was pretty good. They negotiated themselves $1 million an episode each. So before a single foot of film, because I believe they were still shooting in film at the time, before a single foot of film was exposed, before they turned on the lights on the sets, before the writers got into the writer's room, they were already spending $6 million on the episode. So Lisa Kudrow, being one of these 6 in the later seasons, was making $1 million an episode. $1 million. I think that kind of money should help her to understand that if a couple of the writers are making sexual innuendos about a couple of the characters on the show, if they're having like fantasies about, I forget the names of these characters now. I know you have Aniston and Courtney Cox, Arquette, and then not Arquette, I think, and you got Joey and Chandler and Ross, and why can't I remember Lisa Kudrow's character's name? Not coming to me. Anyway, Anthony Quinn, the actor, a few years ago, he was talking about what goes on behind the eyes, behind the face, in his mind when he performed. And I'm not going to quote exactly here because I don't remember the exact quote. I'm going to give you the essence of this. He was of the opinion that an average audience member would not want to know what he was thinking about in order to get to the performance points that he got to get to the places that he got to when he was performing, when he was acting. The same, to some extent, can be true for writers. And so when I hear stories about, these white male writers on Friends were engaging in sexual fantasies about the characters in the show. So, what's your point? People fantasize. It's kind of built into the DNA. And they need to do this, maybe not do this within earshot of Lisa Kudrow, but, this is I'm going to use the word natural here, but this is part of the writing process. You have to be willing to go places as a writer thinking about what you're going to do in order to reel it back and get to the place where you're going to actually, have the script that is going to go before the cameras. Seinfeld had a famous episode called The Contest, and they never used any of the words to tell you what the contest was. But we all knew because they talked around it close enough that we could get the hint. And they had a bet, right? And the bet was who could hold out the longest without reaching nirvana, shall we say, through actions you take on your own person. And when the writers were working on this episode, do you think for a microsecond that they didn't go the distance with their language talking about this thing that they were writing, this particular episode that they were writing? Do you think that they didn't use the M word? Do you think they didn't use the J word that's followed by a second 3-letter word? Do you think that they didn't talk about spanking or bashing or talk about men who may or may not have been on watercraft? Do you think that they didn't use any of that language while they were in the process of writing? yeah, I mean, these euphemisms probably, I don't remember the episode that well, but these euphemisms, I don't think most of them made it into the final script. It was basically just, hints, and it was enough of a hint that we all got, yeah, we got it. But they went there, the writers, I'm sure of it. And the writers on Friends, you're talking about a lot of sexual innuendo situations that these six get into, sometimes with other people, sometimes with each other. And in order to get to the clean version, or relatively clean version, that went in front of the cameras back in the 1990s, in order to get that relatively clean version, they probably went a little dirtier in the writer's room. And that's just the way it was. And Lisa Kruger had a background in improv, okay? And I studied at Second City, so I am not entirely unaware of where people's minds can go when they're doing improvisation. And some of the great sitcom writers and such came out of the improv world because what is improv? Improv is writing on your feet, and sometimes it's funny and sometimes it ain't. But you work towards the thing that's funny. So for her to whine now, oh, the writers had sexual fantasies about the cast. Oh, and she's dabbing her tears with $100 bills. Okay. No sympathy. I have no sympathy for her on this. This is basically just, and she's getting publicity, I guess, a little publicity. She wound up on page 6, but she's just complaining for the sake of grabbing a headline. I think that's what it is. And of course, I don't know this story went anywhere else, but I wanted to give this a minute to just emphasize that I think that she's full of. She's full of that stuff that we use to make plants grow. Now, why is the mouse this way? Oh, yeah, let's see. Right, I got to bring up something else here. So let me move this over. Okay, this mouse is really annoying. Okay, let me see if I can bring up what I want to bring up. Let's see if that's it. Okay, now bring that to the front here. All right, so the Rolling Stone decided to do something called The Horror of Execution by Firing Squad. And again, this was about a week ago. And I'm bringing this up now to talk about the death penalty, really. And why we need it. But let's give the Rolling Stone their due for a moment here, and I don't really want to go more than a couple of paragraphs in. Basically, they start out with the story about attorney Gerald Bo King sees his client die again and again. The silence reminds him of the moment in the death chamber before the guns went off. Yeah, okay, fine. That's as much as we need to see of that. Let me turn that off. So, here was the attorney's client who he was whining about. The guy who his client who died by firing squad. You stand in a place, and a bunch of people with guns go boom, and you end up out. Brad Keith Sigmund, I guess. He died on. He was executed March 7th, 2025. Was an American man convicted and later executed for the 2001 double murder of his ex-girlfriend's parents in South Carolina. All right. And if I recall correctly, this is what Brad Keith Sigmund looks like. So, of course, Rolling Stone chose a man of this particular ethnic persuasion to emphasize their point. Because reasons. I am suspicious of Rolling Stone, obviously. So what did he do? He breaks into the home of David Lark and Gladys Lark. They were 62 years old and 59 years old at the time. And on 2001, he would have been in his early 40s. And he bludgeons them to death with a baseball bat. And apparently the accusation here is that he struck each of them 9 times, and I don't know if there was any significance to the number 9, or whether there was a reason for that. They were in separate rooms, and then he said he had planned this while using crack cocaine to tie them up and kidnap his girlfriend for a romantic weekend, and then kill her and himself, but the plan escalated into murder. So he was going to tie them up and kidnap them, and then it became killing them. After that, he kidnaps his ex-girlfriend at gunpoint, and when she got home, she escaped from the car. Apparently, he also had a gun, because he didn't fire a baseball bat at her. He fires and misses, and he was captured 11 days later in Tennessee. And this happened in 2001. He was convicted in 2002. And to give you an idea of how long the appeals process is and how long it takes in order to get someone executed, he received 2 death penalties and 30 years for the burglary. And you kind of have to add the 30 years because it has been the case that often death penalties get commuted. Right before he left office, Biden commuted a bunch of death penalties, I think. So he admitted responsibility, took responsibility for the crimes. And so even though he admits responsibility, takes responsibility for the crimes, he commits the crimes in 2001, and he is not executed until approximately 40 years later. 24 years later, 2001, 2025, 24 years later. 24 years later, almost 2.5 decades. So they said over 2 decades. And so they tried to get him out of prison by they tried to get his sentence commuted or whatever by arguing he was he was a model prisoner. He showed remorse. He had severe mental illness at the time of the crime, so on and so forth. And they described him as a changed man in order to try to get his death sentence commuted. And after spending 24 years in prison, he was executed at the age of 67. Okay. Oh wait, let's. Dang, this. Is it my mouse? Oh, that's better. I guess some dust got in there. So I was thinking about this, and I wanted to see the names of the last 10 individuals executed. Names, dates, crimes committed, and I wanted biological sex, ethnicity, and age of the time the crimes were committed. So when people are executed, usually it is for the worst of the worst. And this guy killed a couple of people with a baseball bat. Sigmund did. So let's look at the last 10 individuals executed before that. We have Chadwick Khalil Willesee. Black male, age, he was 22 years old in 1990. And he was executed in 2026 in Florida. So 1990 to 2026, he waited, 35 years? I don't know if he was caught immediately, but he murdered a 56-year-old white female neighbor during a burglary robbery. Again, a bludgeoning death. And he attempted to strangle her. He doused her with gasoline and set her on fire while she was still alive. Yeah, death penalty. Justified. Justified. Michael Lee King, 2026 in Florida. White male. He was 36 years old in 2008 when he committed the crime. And he waited almost 2 decades to get executed. He kidnapped, did some nasty things too, and murdered a 21-year-old white female, a young mother of 2, and he was 36 at the time. He kidnapped. She managed to call 911 from his car while she was captive, and he murdered her afterwards. Death penalty. Cedric Allen Ricks, 2026, Texas, black male. He was 38 at the time he committed his crime. Double murder during a domestic argument. He stabbed his common-law wife, so that means he'd been living with her for a few years, but they never tied the knot. And his 8-year-old son to death. Another son, another child of his, was injured but survived. He only waited 13 years to get executed. Lucky compared to the other guys. But yeah, justified. Billy Leon Kearse, 2026, Florida, male, black, 18 years old in 1991. He killed a cop. And it was a traffic stop. He's 18 years old. It's a traffic stop. There's a struggle. He manages to get the officer's gun and then shoot the officer a dozen times. So his crime, he waited in jail for a long minute. He waited in jail for 1991. Wow. Let's see, 1996, 2026, 2.5 decades. 2026. Wait, no. No, over 3 decades. I wasn't a math major. Justified, he killed a cop. With his own gun. He killed a cop with a cop's own gun. Okay, let's see. Melvin Lee Trotter, 2026, Florida again, black male. And he was somewhere between the ages of 25 and 30. And in 1986, he was a crack addict at the time, so drugs involved. We had a robbery murder of a 70-year-old white female grocery store owner. He stabbed her multiple times, and her bowels fell out, which is disgusting, and then strangled her. Yeah, I kind of feel like the death penalty was in order. And he was in prison for 86, 2020. He was in prison for, I guess, 4 decades. See, I'm of the opinion this should happen more quickly. I think waiting 4 decades for the execution is a little much. I understand due process. I understand, the possibility of extenuating circumstances, but justice should be swifter. Okay, Kendrick Simpson, Antonio, in Oklahoma. Black male, 25 years old, roughly at the time of the crime, 2006, 2008. He committed a double murder of 2 black males, ages 19 and 20. He was 25. It was after a nightclub fight. Drive-by and drive-by into their car. I think the death penalty is justified. Ronald Palmer Heath, white male. This was in 2026. Florida again. Most of them are in Florida. He was apparently late 80s, early 90s, and he was in his late 20s to late 30s. He murdered a traveling salesman, white male victim, during a robbery committed with his brother. The victim was stabbed and shot. Yeah, again, I don't have a problem with the death penalty. You did it, pay the price. Charles Victor Thompson, another white male, January 28, 2026. He was 27 years old when he committed a double murder by shooting his ex-girlfriend and her new boyfriend. Everyone in this one was white. And it was a jealous rage revenge attack. Um, all right. I'm going to guess here that she did something to really, really piss him off. But you still got to have some impulse control. So, yeah, did the crime, pay the penalty. Frank Athan Wells. Executed December 18th, 19th. Oh, he was such a badass that they took 2 days to execute him. Either that or they threw the switch at 11:59 p.m. and then the deed was done at 12:01 a.m. the next day. Maybe that was it. But I like the idea that he was such a badass that they had to spend 2 days killing him. Another white male, and he was only 19 or 20 in 1987. Home invasion double murder of an Air Force couple, a young Air Force couple. Okay, I don't like the writing here. This is I don't like the writing here. This is Grok's writing. I don't like the way it was written, but that's okay. We have a white female, and doesn't say anything about the male that he killed. Anyway, we're going to leave that as is. He ties him up, slits the man's throat, and shoots him, and then shoots the woman. What is up with it? In a couple of these cases here, you have like multiple things that are done to the victims that would lead to death. It's like slitting his throat wasn't enough. It's like slit the throat, and the guy was like glog 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 glog, and the murderer is like, oh my god, do I have to keep listening to this? Bang. He was linked to and confessed involvement in a total of about 5 murders as a teenager serial pattern. So this is, we have multiple murders here for most of these people who face a death penalty. This is, of these 10, this is the first serial killer. Because 5, when you have like you kill a couple, you kill another, you have like 5 people who are killed, 5, and it's more than one incident, then that's a serial pattern. And that's that does indicate premeditation. So yeah, definitely death penalty. And number 10, Harold Wayne Nichols, who was executed in December of 2025 in Tennessee. And he committed his crimes in 1988. So he was chilling for more than 3 decades in prison, waiting for the inevitable. He did nasty, unthinkable things to a 20 or 21-year-old white female college student. And he broke into her home, did the unthinkable things, and then beat and bludgeoned her to death. And after he was caught, he admitted to having committed multiple other SAs. Uncool, dude. Completely uncool. And, why did they have to wait, so many years to take care of business here? Why'd they have to wait more than 3 decades to take care of business? Anyway, he deserved it. Now, most of these were in Florida, and you can see, if we're looking for patterns here, no Asian males in the group. We have of the most recent 10, and this is just a snapshot. This is nothing but a snapshot. You can go find more detailed stats wherever you want. We have white. That's 4. We have 4 who are white males, and then we have black. That's 4 and 4, and then we have so. For the last 10, we're evenly split between black and white males. So, so when we talk about men being more violent, men having a higher propensity to commit very violent crimes, granted, this is not the complete stats, but men are more likely to do this. Here's the thing, though. For all 10 of these men who did these unspeakable acts, bludgeoning, doing nasty things to women, doing terrible things women nobody should ever do, committing murder. In all 10 cases, these men who were executed, there's an argument to be made that this was the kindest thing that could happen to these 10 men from a spiritual perspective. Hear me out. If we are put onto this plane of existence to learn and grow spiritually, and that opportunity is snuffed out early by the active unaliving of a person by someone else. The person who commits that crime has, in a sense, committed a crime against God. Because God put that other person on this planet to give that soul the opportunity to learn, to grow, to become better. What kind of, is there any way at all for restitution to occur in such a case? Obviously not. Now, granted, I'm speaking from the standpoint of a believer, someone who believes in God. The only kindness that can be offered that person after having been unalived is mercy from God, kindness from God, kindness to his soul from God. So, what about the person who commits the crime? What about the weight that that person's soul carries for having removed forcefully the opportunity of that other person to know and to love God and to grow spiritually here on earth? What about the killer? If he pays for his crime here, then he doesn't have to pay for it there. If he pays for his crime here on earth, he doesn't have to pay for it there. That's not restitution exactly, but it does offer some level of balance. So, it is an odd thing to say, I suppose. It's an odd perspective from a certain person. I'm sure some people are going to think, "Whoa, that's that." Some people are going to disagree with me, and I'm fine with that. Make your case. Make your case that I'm wrong. I'm fine. This is what I think, that these 10 souls whose lives were ended by the state as a result of being tried by a jury of their peers, convicted for the crimes they committed. All of them went through an appeals process, obviously, based on the number of years between conviction and execution, and faced this penalty for their crimes. They paid for it here. I can't say that any of these 10 individuals shows up in the next world with a completely clean slate. What I can say is, logically, they paid for their crimes here. So they don't have to carry that. Their lives were ended before, they didn't die of natural causes. They didn't die as a result of getting run over by a car. They didn't die as a result of a crime being committed upon them. Because when the state goes through this, this is not a crime. This is justice being served. So that part of the slate, at least, has been cleaned for them. And this is a spiritual kindness to these 10 individuals. And if you happen to be a believer and you think, he's just full of it, you have the names right there. You can rewind and listen again. You can look it up for yourself using Grok or, whatever your favorite AI or search engine is. And you can pray for these 10 yourself. Because if you're a believer, then you believe God listens to prayers. God may not answer prayers the way you want him to, but God listens. So you can pray for them. And if this is your perspective, I would encourage you to do this. And if you disagree with me and you think I'm wrong, cool. I want to hear from you. Whichever platform you happen to be on, I'm really not hard to find. Grouchian on X is probably the best place to get me. So I wanted to, and I know I took a long time to get there, but I wanted to make that one little spiritual point. And this fellow's pain is gone. He's in the next world, and whatever his relationship is with God, that's his now. And he did terrible things here, but I don't wish his soul any ill. He paid his price here, and that's a good thing. Now on to politics. I'm going to try not to get too partisan here because I try to avoid being partisan. I know that's very, very difficult because in 2026 in America, everything is political. There is no such thing as not political. So I try not to worry about not being political in terms of everything being political. I do, and I slip. I'm not perfect. I do think that it's better to avoid being partisan in terms of political party. And I do think that the notion of being a well-wisher of all humanity is a wonderful approach to take. And my grandmother once said to somebody, and she used all the best Southernisms. My grandmother once said to somebody, Jesus loves you, and Lord knows I'm trying. So, in that spirit, 8647 got James Comey indicted. What exactly does it mean? See, that is how out of touch everyone who relies on our dear friends at National Public Radio, NPR. You can't see this on the screen here, but that's what this is. This is I'm taking this one from NPR. Let's see, maybe I can show you. Bring that down a little bit. There it is, NPR. Okay, now I'm going to put it back where I want it. I'll put it over there for the moment. I'll just have to keep moving this around as I go from story to story. 8647. So the news here is that a year after having shared his photo of pebbles on the beach that were arranged to say 8647, the President of the United States. And by the way, I am not encouraging this or any violence in any way, shape, or form. To 86 means to get rid of, and to 86 means to it can also mean to unalive or to off. And 47 is a reference to President Trump because he was president number 45 and president number 47. In between him, we had AutoPen. Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't supposed to get too political. Now, why is he being indicted? This guy's a former FBI director, and that's why. And it's not because of, I mean, there may be partisan aspects to this, but there's a broader issue here, and the broader issue is that the nation's discourse has gotten crazy, crazy violent, and for since 2015, when Trump went down the stairway at Trump Tower, went down the escalator at Trump Tower, and announced his candidacy for the presidency. People who used to hang out with him, used to think he was awesome, started talking smack about him because they didn't like some of his political viewpoints. Everyone loved him until he ran for president, basically is what I'm saying. And the rhetoric coming from one side against the other has become so extreme that there are people who are not terribly stable up here acting out. And so language that, or speech or expression that encourages violence against political figures, we've gotten really slack about following up on this, because we have free speech, but free speech does not include advocating the violent overthrow of the government of the United States. It does not include doxing personal details about other people, personal details that are not otherwise like considered to be within the public sphere. It does not include advocating for violence against political leaders of any party. And we also need to hold, and you might say this is unfair because, oh, he should just be treated as another citizen. At the state level or the federal level, especially in law enforcement, to a higher standard than the average Joe Blow. Comey is a former FBI director. He knows the law. He knows what he was sharing was at the very least skirting the edge of the law. Therefore, since he knows all these things, and since he was a former FBI director who should set a better example, bringing him to court to answer for the accusation of encouraging bad things to happen to the commander-in-chief, the President of the United States, is entirely appropriate. Now, do I think Comey is going to ever spend any significant amount of time behind bars? No. Do I think he's going to get convicted? I don't know. I tend to lean towards not terribly likely. That's the direction I tend to lean. And the reason I tend to lean towards that is because we just historically over the last couple decades have just let this kind of stuff slide a lot. And we also know that when it came to the lawfare that was perpetrated upon Donald J. Trump, then private citizen between his first and second terms, that the process is the punishment. And there was a coordinated effort to punish him. There was a coordinated effort to try to throw enough at him and hope that enough would stick to prevent him from being able to run for president in 2024. This is all pretty much common knowledge. And if you're denying this, then I would recommend opening both. 8647. Yes, I believe that his lawyers will get smart and they will plead out on some minor misdemeanor of some sort. It may be the two sides decide to not go through a trial because reasons, but I think it's good that he is at least facing the process, and it's good because what this says to others in positions of authority within the government, whether it's the state government or the federal government, that this says that you are responsible for the things you say. You have freedom of speech, but freedom of speech, first off, does not include freedom from consequences. And secondly, freedom of speech does not include advocating for violence against your political opponents or people you don't like, or anybody really. So yeah, I think that he needs to face justice. I think he needs to face a jury of his peers. That is my opinion. So we'll see if that happens. Do they have a picture of the seashells? They didn't even put a picture of the seashells up. That's terrible. Let's see. Call me seashells. Let's go to images. I do not have I see that's what it was right there. That's what it was right there. 8647. Just those two those four letters in seashells, and that's it. It's right there. I'm sorry. Let me bring that down where you can see it. That's it right there. 8647. That's what he did. I'm just setting them up and knocking them down. All right, this is one of my favorites. And this is from a couple of weeks ago, and this is hilarious. So let me see if I can't set this up for you. And this one has sound. And I'm going to make sure, just double checking my sound to make sure it's where I want it. Alrighty. So hopefully let's see. Hang on. I'm going to do this for 1 second. Yeah, we can hear it. Okay. All right, so here's the setup here, and this just cracked me up. This completely cracked me up. Let's get this up to 1080p because we want to see it. This was on April 14th, so this was a little over 2 weeks ago. Breaking: dozens of Palestinian terrorists attempted to infiltrate Israel today using a garbage truck. A garbage truck. Instead of the trash taking itself out, the trash was bringing itself in. Let's go. Yeah, boy, they're ready for him. Look at this. They got this surrounded. And up goes the, whatever that thing is. Okay, we hear a lot of stuff in mostly Arabic. This was actually relatively brave on the part of the Israeli police here, and probably there may be. I think it looks like there's police. There might be some IDF there as well. They had no idea. They knew the truck was full of fighting age men. What they didn't know was how many guns would be pointing at them and going pew, 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 pew. Okay, they did not know how many pew-pews they were going to be facing at the moment that they raised that gate. I don't know exactly what to call it on a trash can. I've never worked in that profession, and so I'm not sure what to call it. Anyway. But it's let's just call it a gate. Absolutely hilarious. This is on one level, this is very, very funny. On another level, it's a little scary because these are the lengths that they are still willing to go to in order to try to find and kill large numbers of civilians. Just remember what their compatriots were capable of back in the third quarter of 2024. These are not people to be trusted, and as I'm not sure if Il Jacobi has pointed this out, but others on X have pointed out that these guys, when they took the hostages into Gaza after October 6, 2024, not one person in Gaza, not one local, ever ratted out a single terrorist or civilian. They're all terrorists, but a single Hamas member or civilian holding a single hostage. Nobody ratted out any of them. This is a stark difference from the situation in Western Europe during World War II, when there were people of good conscience doing what they could to save Jews. The people who kept Anne Frank and her family hidden in Amsterdam for a couple of years. And the Oscar Schindler, who started out just as a straight up, I'm going to make money, and then ended up feeling very, very badly that he couldn't save more Jews. There were people who started out bad and became good, and there were people who understood how awful the Nazis were to begin with and protected Jews. Nothing like that in Gaza. Nothing. Say what you will about the people living in Gaza, but they certainly seem to be very, very united in their hatred of people of a particular different religion. Stay right there. We ain't ready for you to come out yet. There's a lot of you to handcuff, and we're seeing them, so we don't have to use any of our pew-pews. We'll be happy to take you immediately handcuffed. Yeah. Uh-huh. I just had my joke. Sometimes the trash takes the sum itself out. Oh my God. I didn't remember the exact word for what it was that they were using. So much for that. Setting them up, knocking them down. Oh, I don't want Proton Mail. Bad gateway. Yikes. Oh, well. Another thing that I do happen to be somewhat interested in is space. And I do not have the level of obsession, it's not my full-time job, okay? So for Jordan, I believe his name's Jordan, who goes by the Angry Astronaut, who I follow, Scott Manley, Everyday Astronaut. There's a channel called NASA Spaceflight. There's another one called The Space Race. There are a number of good channels. Angry Astronaut, his thing, he's not really all a little bit on this one. He's making an argument here. Suddenly, Amazon really needs this rocket. So he's making the argument here, and I don't want to go into, I don't want to be too detailed on this, but what he's pointing out is that that Amazon needs ULA. And I need to offer basically a brief explanation of what's going on here. For those of you who are not completely familiar, called Starlink, or I forget what the constellation is called, but you access this by using Starlink, and there are millions of people around the world using Starlink dishes. Starlink dishes have been provided to disaster areas in the United States and outside the United States. Early in the Ukraine war, Starlink dishes were provided to the Ukrainian military, and that may have really the ability to communicate well, because all their other forms of communication had been cut off by the Russians. The Ukrainians had lost all other forms of communication. So the one way they had to talk to each other across distances was Starlink. And Starlink, offering that communication to the Ukrainian military, may well have been the difference between losing the war like that, which is what the Russians expected Ukraine to do, and the Ukrainians being able to. Starlink has not been insignificant. Now, Amazon came out with some competition for Starlink called Kuiper, and it's now called Leo. And Amazon's had some. Amazon is using 4 different launch providers in order to put their constellation into orbit, and they have a schedule, and they want to have a certain number of satellites in orbit by sometime in 2029. And the 4 companies that they're using SpaceX. They do have a contract with SpaceX for some of those deliveries, but not many. They use Ariane Space, or Ariane, however you say space in French. It's a French company, and they ship some satellites for them. They put some satellites into orbit. They're using ULA, United Launch Alliance. And the 4th company that they're using is, of course, Jeff Bezos' other company, Blue Origin. Now, Blue Origin has been developing their rockets at a pretty slow pace. So where SpaceX, they make a rocket, they blow it up, they learn from what they did. They make another rocket, they blow it up, they learn from what they did. They make another rocket, they blow that one up, they learn from what they did. They make another rocket, that one almost blows up, but it falls where they don't want it to. They learn from what they did. They make another rocket, it goes up and comes down exactly the way they wanted. So they learn by breaking things, which is cool. And that's a very different approach to iteration, to getting stuff in, to getting to the point where you've got a reliable rocket. That's a very different approach than any of the traditional rocket manufacturers, any of the legacy rocket manufacturers. It's a very different approach to what Jeff Bezos has been doing with Blue Origin, and that's why, rather than having dozens of boosters and dozens of New Glens just laying around to shoot, they've got a booster that they used, and then that landed, and then they reused the booster, and they reused the booster sometime in early May, and the booster did its job just fine. It took the New Glenn up, came back down, landed perfectly. They could reuse it again. The New Glenn, which is expendable, was sent up there to put a satellite into orbit. Lamentably, the rocket did not reach the altitude in low Earth orbit that it was supposed to, so it released the satellite early, and the satellite fell into the Earth's atmosphere and burned up. And the rocket, they say, has burned up, but some people aren't sure because Blue Origin has been a little tight-lipped about the fate of that particular rocket. What we think happened was that one of the engines had there was a bit of a leak of some cryogenic material, something very, very cold, and it hit the one of the two engines on the rocket. The thing is that that story can't be the whole story, because where the rocket was in orbit at that point, the other engine should have been able to finish the job. And apparently there was also a fuel leak, and that's why the other engine was not able to finish the job. So they've got a couple of things to iron out, and of course, anytime that there is something like this, as Jordan said, angry Astro, there's an incident report, and the rocket company is grounded until such time as they do a thorough investigation and they figure out what the problem was, and they institute a fix, and they report what they're doing to the appropriate authorities. I think it's still the FAA, and then they receive approval to continue launching. So that's some of the background on New Glenn, and this is a problem for Amazon because Amazon has a launch cadence from these 4 different companies that they were relying on in order to get enough satellites into space quickly enough to be able to meet their 2029 goal of a constellation of thousands of satellites up in the air, up in space, so that they can set up an internet service to compete with SpaceX's Starlink. Okay, so that gets us to Angry's advocacy here. Ariane Space, the French company, is not available for more missions because they're book solid. SpaceX, as Angry points out, Jeff Bezos, there are a lot of things that Jeff Bezos would rather do to himself that are very unpleasant rather than going hat in hand, so to speak, to Elon Musk and saying, hey, listen, you know what, you think we can get some Falcon 9s or Falcon 9 Heavies to shoot some of our satellites up? And in fairness, SpaceX has treated competition like Amazon's Leo is just another customer. Yeah, fine, we'll launch your stuff, no problem. And offer them the same prices. They weren't like, oh, you want to launch your competition to our product? Well, gosh, it's going to cost you. No, they haven't been like that. They've been completely cool. And then because of the personal stuff between the 2 billionaires, I'm going to get back to that in a second. And then there's ULA. And ULA, United Launch Alliance, they're using expendable rockets. The way they keep their costs somewhat down is by setting up a factory to make these expendable rockets. So they're just kind of churning them out. Not that fast, but they're churning them out much faster than Blue Origin is churning out their New Glens. And it's only the booster that's recyclable or reusable from the New Glenn. So Angry's like, see, the expendable rocket company still has a job to do, and Amazon has nowhere to turn except ULA because. That's where I'm like, not quite. Because he just pointed out that in the video, he points out, and I'm not going to play any of the video. He points out that Bezos has, there's no love lost between Bezos and Elon Musk. Elon Musk, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that Elon Musk hates Bezos with the white hot heat of 1,000 suns. I don't know. Elon strikes me as more practical than that. But apparently Bezos isn't fond of Musk and doesn't want to go to SpaceX for any of those launches. Now, bear in mind, this is why this becomes significant. Amazon is not simply a company owned by Jeff Bezos. Yeah, he has a lot of stock. Amazon is a publicly traded company, which means that the CEO and the board are responsible to shareholders. And so I heard this whole video. And what is that doing up there still? I watched this whole video, and he talked about affordability. Angry did, but he did not go into specifics. And so I was curious, how much is how much is Amazon paying for their satellite launches? So I asked Grok a simple question. For Amazon's Leo, and I misspelled Kuiper, for their satellite launches. What is the per satellite cost to Amazon for using each of the 4 companies? And I also misspelled Arianespace. Okay, so we have here are the estimates. And I watched agents thinking, going through all that stuff. It's fun to watch. It's fun to watch that process over a few seconds because it sends out these little messages while it's thinking, and so, or while it's doing its calculations and such. So here's our answer. New Glenn costs between $3.7 to $4.7 million per satellite. That's actually on the high side. That's actually kind of expensive here, as you're going to see. ULA comes in at 2.7 to 2.8 million per satellite, which is lowest amongst heavy U.S. options. And that's because ULA can launch a larger number of satellites per launch than SpaceX can. So, and ULA is using their Vulcan rockets to launch the satellites, and they can take between 40 and 45 satellites per launch if they're using the Vulcan. Arianespace costs between 3.5 and 4.1 million per satellite, which is a little bit less than than New Glenn. New Glenn's the most expensive one of the bunch. Bezos' own company is the most expensive, and they're a French company. And then we get to SpaceX, and it's 2.8 to 3 million. And 2.8 to 3 million, I saw this and I thought, how is it that SpaceX, with a reusable booster, with a reusable rocket, how is it that they are more expensive per satellite than ULA? So that was the next question I asked. And the deal here is that ULA keeps launch prices low by cranking out a lot of rockets. They streamlined their production process. They did what a smart company does. They cut the number of parts. They pared down everything they didn't need. They made the rockets a little lighter. They did all the good stuff they need to do. And so that's how even though the whole thing burns up, even though nothing gets recovered yet. I mean, they have plans to recover their lower stage, but they haven't gotten there. That's why their costs are relatively low. But then there was one other question that I had to ask, because here it says massive bulk contract creates economies of scale, and that's why ULA is able to make so many rockets, because we know that we're going to make so many rockets, so we can do this in bulk and our cost per rocket goes down. Okay, so then the other question is, if Amazon entered into a long-term contract with SpaceX. So now, granting that Jeff Bezos hates Elon with the white hot heat of a million universes, how much would that drive down costs? And bear in mind, I'm asking Grok to speculate. Okay, this is speculation, but it's 2.8 to 3.1, and Grok speculates that it could be 1.8 to 2.5 million per satellite if Bezos negotiated a big contract for a lot of satellites with Bezos' avowed enemy, Elon Musk. And the reduction is plausible because of economies of scale. Okay, so, and then we look at the current mix and blah blah blah, and so I asked one more question. So, not counting the possibility of using Starship a year from now, how much money is Bezos leaving on the table because fuck Elon? And Grok says, Grok has a quick answer. Says they're leaving somewhere between one, and then this is screwing Amazon shareholders. And if you're an Amazon stockholder, and you see this, wait a second. I'm all for Kuiper / Leo. I'm all for Amazon expanding their business to include offering internet service, from space. Okay, I think this is an awesome idea. But why is Jeff Bezos / Amazon leaving somewhere between $1 and $3 billion on the table? Why are they spending that much more money for rocket launches when Jeff Bezos could simply suck it up and give Elon a call? If I was an Amazon stockholder, this is the question I would be asking. Now, this didn't fit Astro Angry's. This didn't fit Jordan's narrative, so he did not bring up the relative costs of using the different providers, and he didn't bring up what kinds of savings Amazon could achieve by going with SpaceX. And so I just wanted to cover that for a minute. I thought that was again, I'm somewhat interested in space, and I noticed something that wasn't being talked about, and so I thought I'd underscore that. Yeah, if I was an Amazon stockholder, I'd be pissed. I would be like, what the actual F? You're really, really not going to save me money because you have a mad on at Elon? Seriously. What the actual F? All right. Oh, I remember. I looked up woke zombies. Let's see. Ladies and gentlemen, San Francisco, California. And no, this is not actors doing an art piece. These are actual drug addicts. I'm not sure what they're on, but these are actual drug addicts in San Francisco, California at 7th and Market Street. Let's bring this up to 9:48 and let's start over. And let's bring this over where you can see it. Holy hell, that guy's just standing there, not able to move. Not even able to move, he's just standing there. And there's this other guy, and he's in slow motion too. He's doing but he's actually doing something with his hands. This other guy's like, I don't know what's going on, but he's bent over. What an interesting drug to take. Eek. Thankfully, I'm not doing that. Okay, so they're going to tell this. I'm going to take a wild guess. It's been a couple of days since his hair has seen any shampoo. Now let's go back. I'm going to make that point again. Yeah. Yeah, it's look at that. Yeah, it's definitely been a day or two since that guy's hair has seen any shampoo.
Pull him up.
Why the heck are we allowing this? Why the heck are we allowing this on a daily basis? None of these people, you know, when Governor Newsom, sorry, I just got political again. Sorry. I don't really care that he's a Democrat. I just have policy issues with him. I have like basic management issues with him. He is not a good manager of money. He just simply isn't. Either that or he's a fantastic manager of money and his friends are getting paid. One or the other. Or maybe a little of both. Sorry, I brushed the mic. Anyway, let's continue with the video here. This is 4 minutes, and I may kill this before we get through the whole 4 minutes, but this is just, this is really sad. I want to make fun of it. I want to make fun of these people, and I just did a little bit. But honestly, this is Sad.
Oh shit, look, you got the same match I do.
What y'all getting up? Fitting on? Somebody stepped on it? It was an accident.
Whatever that drug is, it's obviously valuable because he's like doing the finger thing where it sticks to your finger and then brushing it up. Then we're going to look around a bit. A couple of folks in wheelchairs and other people like basically living their lives in slow motion, zombie apocalypse style. Oh, people in wheelchairs
Trying
and
to clean it.
no different a position than the ones who actually have full use of their legs. And I don't know if this guy might have partial use of his legs based on the position of his body. That looks like something that I've never used and will likely never use.
Huh?
It's different than when I had him and you got put the switcheroo on me.
Pull the
Yeah.
switch on you. What is it?
I don't know. It's different. It was, what I had was
What it's supposed to be?
What is it supposed to be?
Fitting on and crystal? So you mix them both?
Okay, this guy's surprised because this drug addict is mixing fentanyl. I don't even know the street names for this stuff anymore. I used to I used to try to halfway keep up with these things, but that was decades ago. Crystal, I know what that is. That's crystal meth. That's nasty stuff. That's the kind of stuff you do that for 6 months and your teeth start falling out. It also just ages you. It just ages you. And fentanyl is just deadly. It's just deadly. I don't have any. I haven't even looked up any description of what kind of high fentanyl offers. I just know it's deadly. And this is sad.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah. The guy on the bicycle is trying to be as objective as possible here. I'm not even sure who he is, but he's just trying to be objective. Wow, that's powerful. And he's apparently trying to at least be somewhat non-judgy, which I guess is good. This phenomenon of being on your feet and moving in extremely slow motion, bending down and not sitting down and it just not really able to do much of anything. This is a weird phenomenon. I mean, I really I have precious little personal experience with this. I've never done anything that strong. I haven't done much of anything for decades that's any stronger than caffeine. And I had never seen anyone who was under the, severely under the influence of something like one of the hard, dangerous drugs until I was in junior high school. And one day, 7th or I think might have been 8th grade, we had temporary classrooms at our school, and there was a dirt area. Because they were temporary classrooms, there was a dirt area in front of the door of a temporary classroom. And there was a male student. He looked to be, if my memory is serving me, he was a little bit further along the trail on puberty than I was at that moment. And he was wearing a jacket, probably a blue jean jacket or something to that effect, and he was face down on the dirt, fortunately head to one side, and with one of his hands, I don't even remember for sure whether it was his left or his right hand. This is an odd thing to remember so well, huh? But it's the first time that I saw someone in this kind of shape, and I had not seen media of drug addicts acting this way. I mean, this was in the days when we had half a dozen television channels, and then the only things you could find in UHF were two public access, two public TV stations, the one from our hometown and the one from LA, and I think there might have been one or two other channels broadcasting. I think there was a channel broadcasting out of Orange County, and there was a channel. I think there was a channel that had some sort of a Christian preacher on full time. So, and we're talking about public airwaves, and so everything is well controlled. There, no internet. This was decades before life seen someone tripping that way on, I'm guessing, heroin. I think at that time it was heroin. And I think someone around, somehow I think it had gotten around the school, and even though I was not one of the cool kids, I think even I heard about it, and that it was heroin, most likely, that this kid was on. And he's, with one hand, he's trying to, he's got his face down around, and with one hand, I think it's the other way around, with one hand he's trying to use his finger and write something, and just kind of scratch, a slow scratch. Never seen anything like that, so that's probably why it was memorable. So this is different than that. These drugs that these people are taking, I'm just going to take a wild guess. I think that what these people are doing is stronger and more damaging than what I saw that kid was taking back in the day at my junior high school. This is just scary stuff.
Y'all sitting up getting high together. Y'all know each other's name. Okay. He said, "What's your name again?"
Oh, hang on. Okay. This young lady right here seems to be, at this point, a little bit closer to sober, trying to get her next high. It seems a little closer to sober than some of the other ones. But it's just, this is how they almost all of them handle it this way. They're on their feet and they bend over deeply in order to do this. Now, are they trying to hide what they're doing from view of the street? I don't know. And if they are, they're not doing a very good job of it. I mean, it's pretty obvious what's going on. They're obviously, fixing to take something that's extremely dangerous and extremely illicit.
Getting high together. Y'all know each other's name. Okay. He said, "What's your name again?"
Nice to meet you. That's my wife, Sarah.
Oh, nice to meet you.
No, I know you're not.
Youngster, let me ask you a question. What city you from?
Sacramento and Placerville.
Sacramento, Placerville. Goddamn. What city you from?
From Washington.
Washington. Goddamn. You okay? I just like to know what city. Like, how many people come to San Francisco from different states or cities?
Yeah, I've been here.
Yep.
How long you been here?
Since me and her have been here since February 24th.
February 24th. Why you come
Yeah,
down? What was your reason for coming to San Francisco? You.
What happened to us?
Yeah.
We just lost, literally, we lost our house, our dog passed away, and his mom passed away on the same 2 months, and we just left.
But
Honestly.
what made y'all decide to stay in San?
This is somehow not surprising, because most likely what was going on is that they were living at his mom's house. Now, they the detail about the dog is, that's added for emotional reasons. The relevant thing here is they lost the roof, I'm guessing. They lost the roof over their heads when their mother passed, when his mother passed, and most likely. And then they had they had to go somewhere, and probably wherever it was that they were probably had colder winters in San Francisco. This is one of the reasons that Well, San Francisco, for whatever reason, still has a weird bit of an aura that's still there from the 1960s, and and the weather is not. I mean, it's windy and it gets cool, but it's not extreme. And this is the same reason that so many of these guys end up in LA and San Diego because you can be outside and not freeze to death, most likely, except for a few days a year, maybe. You can be outside all year long. And and if your family is not well off and you're living on the edge as it is, and you're at a point where you haven't built a life yet, I can see where there weren't a lot of other options for them if their priority is not building a life, but their priority is their next high. I can see where San Francisco would be the place to go. Don't know if they wore a flower in their hair though.
San Francisco. You said it a minute ago.
There's more money here. There's more money here. There's
More money here.
It's 106 degrees in the daytime here in Sacramento
And
right
it's
now.
cheaper.
Oh, well, they went from Sacramento. Okay.
The what's cheaper?
The dope's cheaper here. And
The dope is cheaper
The
here.
dope is cheaper.
The
Interesting.
dope is cheaper here. Is the dope better here?
yeah.
Yeah.
Cheaper dope and better dope. Why am I not in the least surprised? All right, you know what? Nature calls, and I've watched Asmongold once or twice, and what he does is he runs to the bathroom and then he comes back, and so that's exactly what I'm going to do. Now, my camera has a thing where it follows me back and forth, and so what's going to happen is it's going to follow me to the bathroom, and you're going to get to see part of this room that I'm in. It's the den, big deal, right? You're not going to see anything interesting. Except maybe you might see the globe on the. I got some shelves over here, and they're not well organized. You'll see some soap there. That my wife made some soap and then laid it out there to dry, and that was weeks ago, and she hasn't collected it yet, and I haven't said anything. So that's that. I need to take care of some vital personal business, and I will be like 1 minute. Not following me. You're advanced technology. Come on, follow me. Follow me. Fine. No, still not. There we go. Ah, now it's reset. Now it's following me again. Thank you for putting up with that. So let's wrap up this this poor fellow.
Okay. Y'all stay there.
whoever's
Stay
next.
safe.
Thank you. You as well.
All
Stay
right.
safe. Wow, look at this. Okay, so we picked the worst spot, but the whole you go down the street, it's like pretty similar. More people around here. They're at a table. Oh my God. So because of the shocking nature of that image, our dear friends at the New York Post thought that it would be a good idea to cover this, and so they did. And so this is where we're at. Shocking video show zombie-like state. Now I showed you the video, and they report on it here. And essentially, their reports are just J.J. Smith wrote on X that the clip was filmed between September and December, and he reposted it to bring attention to this. This is the Tenderloin district, or the Tenderloin. I didn't know it as a Tenderloin neighborhood. Growing up, I'd heard this as the Tenderloin district, but whatever. And Smith's a longtime resident of the area. They believe the videos, the San Francisco Police Department is trying to cover. Oh, we think it was from years ago. No, we don't let that happen now. Sure. Okay. So I thought that was interesting. Ba-ba-da. Oh my God. This is classic. I'll just put this right over here, and I will restart this. I will set our video level at maximum, and I will turn on the sound, and I will restart this. Okay. I believe this was from the May 1st celebrations, and the fun part here is this, and I this up. So let's see what the Be Kind Brigade is up to on May 1st. If you're from a different culture and you've never heard of this, what she is doing is taking a baseball bat to a piñata. And the idea is you hit the piñata enough times and then candy comes out. But the way the game is usually played, you give a stick to a child after you blindfold the child. And then the child gets 3 whacks at the stick, 3 whacks at the piñata. And the piñata is usually not an effigy of the President of the United States. It is usually something like a lizard or a frog or whatever. Okay, and eventually the piñata gets hit enough. It's made of paper mache, some paper mache-ish kind of stuff. And eventually the piñata gets hit enough and its guts spill out. And the guts are candy. And all of the kids, and this is a kids' party game, okay? All of the kids run and grab the candy on the ground and unwrap it and get toothaches. But that's not the case here. We have an elderly lady, an elderly Karen, and she's the contrast here is what this video is about, because we'll stop this as it goes along. You're going to see what her shirt says. M-A-K-A. I'm assuming that means Make America Kind Again. Oh, no, I'm going to keep going. Oh, that's not a baseball bat. It's just a stick. Sorry. Other people get in on it, and they just have to get their frustrations out by beating up on the effigy of Trump. And boy, talk about impotent here. Okay. Yeah, Maca, make America kind again. Look at the smile on her face. Oh, look at this. We are unified in beating up a pinata of the president. Woo! Okay, and here we have, this is the Christian thing. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I think that pretty much speaks for itself, but let's go look at the comments. These are not yesterday's Democrats. They hate him because he isn't open-minded like them. Yep, and leftist virtue signaling. Hate has no home here, unless it's hate for Trump, his supporters, white men, Christians, conservatives, Jews, legal immigrants, free speech, and Charlie Kirk. Okay, so that's I just wanted to highlight this particular bit of irony here. AI. Post with replies. Hang on. Let's get to the next one here. Nope. Okay. All right. So so I think I wanted to do this. Because there were scary how meta this is. But this is AI. This is Grok Imagine tutorial made with Grok Imagine. Now, I'm going to be upfront here. I'm going to tell you before we even start this that if you're watching carefully, you're going to be able to tell that it's AI. And one of the things that bugged me about this watching it is how AI it was because okay, I'm going to play this for you and I'll stop when we get what I want to emphasize here. But it is scary how good this is getting. I've got a couple things I'm going to say about this afterwards, and there was something I was going to say about something else earlier, and I forget what it was. But we're rolling along. We're just barreling through.
Hello, I'm Katya Melnikova. Welcome to my tutorial. Today I'll show you how to use Grok Imagine to create characters and voices for your tutorial videos. Let's dive in.
That's it. Let's dive in. So often you're watching a YouTube video and they say that, whether it's a real person or an AI, you hear that "let's dive in" or "let's get to it." Now that's Michael Ferrer. Ferrer, yeah, Ferrer. He's the guy that helps people with he's got tutorial videos and other follow he follows the live streaming space. Recommend him, Michael Ferrer Jr. He's good. Anyway, and then what's interesting is Grok gave her the name Obscene Celine. Not bad, not bad. Now I like Grouchian, but Obscene Celine is pretty good too. So. Now, and basically the rest of this is just her explaining how to use Grok Imagine.
First, you're going to need a character and a background. The prompts to make character sheets and a streamer scene that looks something like this are down in the comments below. Need a green screen? Just prompt one in. Easy as that. You can change it to anything you want. It's that easy.
Prompt in a green screen. Interesting. You know, I haven't played. I mean, I haven't played with the AI much trying to do this kind of thing. So I see where this is helpful information. I really don't want to. I mean, you can tell it's AI, but it's getting much better. Holy smokes, that's incredible, amazing. Yes. Okay. See, I love the humorous AIs. And I just want to say, oh, you know what? I'm going to show this first and then we'll decide. Then I'll make my comments. This is only 10 seconds.
And they're off! The swimmers dive in. But wait, Jesus is running on the water! He's sprinting across the surface, leaving them behind! This is unbelievable! He's going to win! He's beating the world record pace. And they're off!
Okay. I can kill the sound. This is wildly inappropriate. This is blasphemous. This is silly, but it actually is kind of funny. And Jesus here is listed as being from Israel. I might have gone with Jesus representing Roman-occupied Palestine. I might have gone with that because that is the correct usage of the word Palestine, because Palestine was initially placed on the Jews by the Romans as an insult, because they used to have nations. They had Israel, they had Judea and Samaria, and when the Romans occupied Israel, when the Romans colonized, when the Romans made Israel made that area part of their empire and subjugated the Jews, one of their humiliations was renaming the place Palestine. Yeah, it's not even fair at this point. Or something else I want to say about AI, but what did I want to say? I think I'm going to leave that for another time. Here we go. Here we go. Hang on. Let's get the video quality up. Okay, and we got this back at the beginning. It's 10 seconds.
It is the
Whoops, there we go.
It is the price to pay for democracy. It is the price to pay for democracy.
See, again, you can tell it's AI because, and this person just put a prompt in, did the first pass, didn't bother going back, because with Grok you can actually go back and, if I'm going to get picky about this, at this part here where she's taking the swig of booze, she's the AI is talking. We hear her voice at the same time, and you can like if that's the first thing that comes up, you can redirect Grok to try again. And the second set of directions I would give is just simply, she starts speaking after the bottle leaves her lips. And I think I would add, just for fun, and she dribbles a bit of booze down her cheeks. That's the amendment I would have given to this. That's the redirect, the additional set of directions I would have given. Please, Lord, can we replace all the horrible actors in Hollywood? Now all the fame and money will go to the best prompters. LOL. In some parts of the world, it's already happening. I cannot speak to most parts of the world, but anywhere that people who make short videos, short verticals, anywhere people are making short verticals, they are increasingly not using humans, but using AI instead to generate the short videos. So verticals in some markets in the world have become pretty popular, and they're sort of like the crack cocaine of stories, because it starts out, whether you consider this high concept or not, but it starts out high stakes, like a marriage is about to happen, and you've got a guy and a girl, and this could be played for drama, this could be played for comedy. And along comes the other woman. And you have a bit of a jealous rage between the two women, and one of them throws the other one down a flight of stairs. And the poor groom is like, oh, what do I do? Right? Some of these have concepts like, I married a billionaire. And so it's like 4 minutes, and it leaves on a cliffhanger. It ends on a cliffhanger, so that you want to watch the next 4-minute one, and then that ends on a cliffhanger. The whole story could run 27 minutes, half an hour, something like that. They use the first 2 or 3 to try to get you hooked, and then try to get you to pay a couple of bucks to watch the rest, right? And in some places, these are popular. I personally know someone who's been making these kinds of verticals. And it started out 100% human actors and actual sets, actual productions, the whole thing. In the last few months, as AI has gotten this good, and granted, you can still tell the difference. This is obviously AI or special effects. This, if these were all human actors, I'd say, oh well, great special effects. But our first instinct now is to look at this and go, yeah, AI. It is far less expensive to use AI to generate 3 or 4 minute short verticals than it is to hire humans, because you have not just the humans you're hiring to be in front of the camera. You have the humans you're hiring to be behind the camera. You have to deal with locations. You have to deal with sets. You have to deal with props. You might be dealing with stunts. Like I said, the example I gave of the couple getting married, and the ex shows up, and the two women have a bit of a tussle, and one of them goes rolling down the stairs. That would require, if you're using only humans and you're not using any sort of AI, that requires someone who knows how to do stunts, because rolling down a flight of steps in a fight, that is a serious stunt. I mean, that's the kind of stunt where it's very easy to get hurt, and you need someone who knows what they're doing. Well, AI makes it a lot easier to pull off those kinds of shots. And that's where these companies that want this product, these verticals, are going now. And some of these companies want these verticals just to sell them. It might be, we're selling this as entertainment, pay a couple of bucks, watch the rest. They may want this for product placement purposes. There are game companies, there are other companies that pay production companies to produce short movies, like 9 or 10 minute shorts, or even 5-minute shorts, whatever, to advertise a game or a product. And it's just easier now to use AI for these things. And the way that some of these companies are looking at it is, AI is good enough. Yeah, it's not real humans. Yeah, maybe the people watching are going to be able to tell it's AI, but maybe they don't care that much, and maybe it's good enough. And maybe we've got other things that we have in these verticals, in these videos, that are interesting enough that will keep the attention of the people we're trying to keep the attention of, who are looking at their phones on the subway or whatever, for the couple of minutes that it takes for us to put our product in front of their eyeballs. This does mean fewer jobs for actors in the short run. I think in the long run, what's going to happen is we are going to get jaded by all of this AI performance stuff, these videos, even if it seems like we're at the point where you cannot tell an AI from a real human. And I don't think we're closer to that point yet. They're still a bit mechanical. the AIs are still a bit mechanical. Or if it's smooth, it's an action sequence like this. I can run this again without the sound. And if you watch this without the sound, you can see that the actual action is smooth, right? And the hair is natural. He's running very fast. You see the splashes in the water as he runs. The robe looks pretty realistic. The swimmers in the background look realistic. Everyone in the crowd is far enough away that you see some movement in the crowd, like you see some people there standing up clapping. The rest of the crowd is far enough away that you really can't tell who they are, and it doesn't matter. For 10 seconds to make the joke, and the joke being if Jesus was in a swimming race, of course he'd run on the water instead of swimming, right? I mean, it's obvious. And that's why it's 10 seconds, because in less than 10 seconds, you get the joke. This could be 6 seconds and you still get the joke. Seriously. You get the joke right there. You've got the joke. Jesus is going to be in a water race. Of course, he's going to be on the water, not in the water. Duh. 6 seconds and the joke is done, right? This kind of thing is entertaining. It's a brief hit, but it's entertaining. And I don't know how likely this is. I know that there is a film company using an AI Val Kilmer in a movie soon, but I don't know how much how well that's going to work in the long run. People want to watch other people. We want to watch humans. We want to know that who we're watching is humans. And where Hollywood could go is to offer an AI certification. Basically, they certify that while AI was used in the backgrounds in some scenes or for some particular establishing shots or whatever, like if I'm doing an establishing shot of, let's say we're shooting something in Brazil, okay? What a production would historically do is, if they needed a fresh establishing shot, if there was something specific they want in their establishing shot, then they would send one person down to Brasilia. They'd hire a plane, put a cameraman on the plane, fly around, get the shot they want, and that would be it. This would be basically a 1 day or a 2 day job for whoever flies down and supervises getting this shot. That's how they would do it historically. They would pay a human to fly to Brasilia. They would pay for an airplane. They'd pay for a local cameraman probably, and they would get the shot. And the person who, the company, the person who was sent by the company would bring the raw footage, probably 35 millimeter, back when everyone used film, bring the footage back to Hollywood, back to LA, and they would process it there. Or maybe they I think they would probably bring it back to process it in LA. They probably would take like undeveloped footage to process in Los Angeles, most likely, because they want to do it in their lab, because in LA, Hollywood, they know that their labs are the best anywhere, so they might not want to entrust that to a local lab. So that costs a few $1,000s. An establishing shot of Brasilia. And you can get an establishing shot of Brasilia. Basically, you just use extant photographs. And if there's something specific you want, you tell the AI what it is you want. And then probably within a few iterations, you're going to have the establishing shot you want of Brasilia for your movie. And for that kind of thing, I mean, I really don't think that anyone cares if you use an establishing shot of Brasilia for your movie set in Brazil. No one's gonna be in the theater like 5 seconds in going, "Oh, that establishing shot is AI, boo, boo." Not likely to happen. On the other hand, an actor offering a performance, that's something humans are very, very highly attuned to. And if the actor comes off wooden or mechanical or somehow off, if I'm watching the movie, I might think, oh, that performer's AI, or they used AI to work out that particular scene for whatever reason. You know, this particular action, this performer, they used AI to bridge these 5 seconds of this thing, and I could see it. That's a little more problematic. More problematic still is Val Kilmer being resurrected for a role using 100% AI. So the idea of a certificate where you have an objective third party who certifies that this product contains no performance, no human performance that is AI. That no humans are being replaced by AI for this performance. You have actual human actors doing actual human things. Yay! Okay. That is probably something that Hollywood and other places where this entertainment is made, Bollywood, Shanghai, Hongdian, wherever. That's England, of course, UK. This is something that I think that they're gonna have to do. They're gonna probably have to have an international association that certifies that this is 100% human acted, and that'll help to put off the day when people just simply don't trust movies or TV anymore at all. For actors, though, I think in the long run, that the good news for actors is if you like doing live, I think there's going to be a greater hunger for live stage plays in the future, 10 years from now, than there is now. I think that stage is going to make stage never went away, but I think it's going to become a bigger thing again. I think it's going to become more popular again. That's my opinion, because humans want to see other humans perform. If we're going to see, because a movie basically is like a play with extra stuff. And if we're going to watch something like that, we want to watch humans. Make sure you can see this. Speaking of AI, and this actually isn't technically AI, this is something else, but it's kind of related. We are fast approaching the point where the combination of physical, real-world technology, the brain, and other technology that connects to it will be seamless. We're getting to that point. We're not there yet, but we're getting to that point. We have a few hurdles left, but this is at once fascinating and scary. Thought-controlled robotics is now very real, and it's happening with Neuralink. It might be happening elsewhere too. A paralyzed Neuralink patient, Alex Conley, just controlled a robotic arm using only his thoughts, and then piloted a drone with his mind. As if AI drones aren't enough. Now, what the Department of War will be able to do, and the various militaries of the world within a couple of years, if some of them aren't doing it already, what they'll be able to do is drill a volunteer soldier's head, stick some wires in, give him a few weeks to get used to it, and then just using his brain and using a screen and the wires connected to the gear, and then obviously the remote connection from there, a human in an underground bunker in Colorado could theoretically use his mind, and only his mind, to direct a kinetic weapon in war half a planet away. That's where we're headed. And the next step after that is going to be, do you even need the wires? The next step after that is the helmet that reads your thoughts and somehow uses the fact that we are we have electricity going here. It manages to come up with a two-way interface that does not involve using wires spiked into the brain to do the same thing. 2 years ago, this was pure science fiction. Oh, by the way, another patient is playing World of Warcraft hands-free using only his brain signals. First couple of times he played was a little clunky, but he's getting better. And by the way, this is going to be a big thing for gamers too, because if you pride yourself on being great at World of Warcraft, and you're using your hands to control whatever input devices you are using, whether it's a keyboard or a joystick or whatever these guys use these days. The guy who's got wires stuck in his brain is going to kick your ass at World of Warcraft because thought action versus thought, send that thought to your fingers action. The guy who's gonna win the next 5 years from now, the guy who's gonna win the gaming tournament is gonna be the one who shows up. He's gonna show up with a wheelchair, and he's gonna have the computer on the back of the wheelchair, and there's gonna be wires going into his brain, and he's gonna be like ha ha ha, and he's just gonna use and it's like keyboard, mouse, joystick. I don't need no stinking peripherals. And he's going to win because that's faster. And that is the future we're coming to in 5 years for gamers too. 5 years, 10 years at the most. Neuralink is not just restoring independence, it's also unlocking new dimensions of human capability and competition and war. Patients who were once completely paralyzed, they're still paralyzed technically here, are now interacting with the physical and digital world using nothing but their thoughts. The future's not coming, it's already here. So let's see this guy doing this. And it's going to take me a minute to adjust everything because I want to make sure let's get us up to 1080p and let's start over. Oh, sorry. Hang on. Sorry. Hang on. Sorry. Hopefully I'm not going to get a content strike for that because I don't own the music. La 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 la. Okay, so he throws the plane for his friend, and then his friend takes over with his mind, controlling the plane. Ladies and gentlemen, we're at the beginning. It's not, okay, well, he crashed, but, first, the Wright brothers didn't make it across the Atlantic with their first plane flight. So, these things take a little time. Yeah, cute. Let's see what other comments there are. Someone wants a Tesla Cybertruck as a van. Big deal. Okay, that's enough of that. I just wanted to make the point that we are not far from mind wars. I don't feel like dealing with that right now. I had a patient today say to me that they wish they had a personal robot car to drive them around so they didn't have to be stressed out in traffic. My response was that this already exists with Tesla full self-driving. The patient was unaware of this technology and likely now will go test drive a car with FSD. It's amazing how many people don't know this technology exists. From my garage all the way to my office, it's about 120 miles one way. Over the past 2 days, I haven't even touched the steering wheel once. That's the direction we're going. But we have to be like not out of touch. And this guy, when he said he had a patient, and he didn't say whether he was a doctor or what. Let's see. Oh, he's a surgeon and a surfer. So he's a surgeon. So I don't want to call him out too hard, but he wasn't completely in touch with people who don't quite have like his money. And I want to point out here where this exchange happens. So someone, this person, Mouse, who is just a parody account, whatever, says, but it's very expensive, so not everyone can afford it. And our surgeon says, no, it's just $99 a month. Think about what you spend $99 on every month. Okay, so for anyone who is lower middle class and up, yes, he has a valid point. For anyone who is below lower middle class, and that could include Mouse here, I don't know. That's a bit, he's a bit out of touch. So Mouse reminds him, the car itself is expensive. And he says, no, that's incorrect. Look at the stand, and he means standard, Model Y and Model 3. And even the standard Model Y and Model 3, new, they are still less expensive than the average new vehicle in the United States. And granted that you can space out the thing, or you can space out your purchase over a period of years using financing, and that's what most people do when they buy cars. Granting these two things, again, you have to have a certain level of income in order to be able to qualify to purchase a new car. And I think that she was coming from a place where, no, there's people who do not have the resources to be able to buy a new car, even if that new car would save them a significant amount of money over whatever it is they're doing right now to get from place to place. And I think in a sense, surf ranch vibes, I think he's a little out of touch, but I get where he's coming from, but I think he's a hair out of touch for people in some socioeconomic brackets. But in fairness, the flip side here is we are talking about FSD. We are talking about driverless vehicles with no supervisor in the car at all, being tested now by Tesla in 3 different cities. And safety drivers or safety riders are in the vehicles being tested in a number of other cities, including in California. And we are maybe a year and a half away from most major cities in the United States having driverless vehicles you can just ring up with an app. And the per mile cost is going to be much less than owning a car. And that will help the people who Mouse is defending in her comment. That's kind of as much as I wanted to say about that. Next one. Yeah, there we are. Canada just criminalized reading the Bible. Now, quoting scripture on marriage, sin, or God's design for sexuality can be prosecuted as willful promotion of hatred. This is how the West falls, as of this moment that I know of. But the lawmakers, one of the houses in Canada, has passed Bill C-9. And now quoting, but now they're saying that's maybe hatred. This is the fact check on that, and I'm not going to try to read all of this to you. What I'm going to point out is that technically you can still quote the Bible. Kinda. But the issue in Canada is you don't have free speech there when you have something called hate speech. And this is a fact check that is a defense of the bill, saying, "Oh, no, it's not illegal to just quote the Bible." Introduces a definition of hatred based on rulings from the Supreme Court of Canada to clarify what constitutes a hate crime or hate speech. So the bill specifies what is not hatred, namely acts that discredit, humiliate, hurt, or offend. But that's the whole point behind hate speech, isn't it? The whole point behind calling something hate speech. It's, I'm offended. And that's why Canada doesn't have free speech. So when James says that this is willful promotion, that if you talk about, if you quote scripture about marriage, sin, or God's design for sexuality, that's willful promotion of hatred. When James says that, he's not wrong. Somebody. And there's very little that you can say without offending somebody. I probably have offended people, the people who aren't listening, but I could easily have offended someone just in the last 5 minutes, just talking about last few minutes, last hour, talking about Elon, talking about whatever. But the RFK Jr. makes the point I would want to make. There is no time in history where the people who were censoring speech were the good guys. And that's what Canada is doing with their hate speech bill, censoring. Period. And it's unfortunate, really, that that Canada is going this direction, that the UK is going this direction, that Germany is going this direction. This is unfortunate, to say the least. Okay, yeah, this is really weird. This is really bothersome. This popped up on X. The story in the New York Post story basically is just the New York Post reporting is basically, hey, guess what we found on X? That's the New York Post reporting here. Okay, hang on. Let me make sure you can see the headline here. Brutal rape festival in Nigeria sparks outrage worldwide after horrifying video of men chasing women through the streets surfaces. So let's go back to the next one. Let's go back here to the X post, and we'll just put it right there. Okay. All right, so they're calling it Nigeria's Unspeakable Crimes Festival. It's the Alu Do Fertility Festival in Ozora Delta State, and there are men chasing the women through the streets and assaulting them. Police claim they're investigating and have made several arrests with multiple suspects now in custody. And this is what this mess looks like. Let me make sure that we've got everything straight here. Fortunately, no sound, because this would probably be pretty bad. Ah, geez. I think my internet's getting a little tight now. I'm probably going to have to shut down soon because close up shop here for the day soon because the internet's like a little dicey at the moment. And here's this poor woman. I think there's a poor woman in there being assaulted, and there's this group of men. Because apparently this event is an excuse to let down your guard on impulse control. Yeah, look at that. She's trying to hold her top on, and she's oh, I had not really screened this video very well before showing it. This is despicable.
Today is a Zorro raping feast. ... All females are to stay indoors.
Seriously, stay indoors. Do not be outdoors because yo men folk are acting wild. They're acting a fool, and they're forgetting what impulse control is, and they're forgetting what respect for the opposite sex is. We can do better. And we should do better. I'm judging. They can do better than this. They don't have to behave this way. They can show some respect. This is not cool. I don't want to look at the story now. I don't want to look at the story at all. I'm just gonna like completely like, oh, that's nice. No, don't make fun like that. All right, never mind. What do we got here? Oh, that's that. All right, never mind. Let's move on. And let's move on. And okay, so we have someone who is a member of one of the West's new sacred castes who is bent, so upset, showing male pattern anger that someone was texting an actual personal opinion about him that he didn't like. Now, it says here, transgender actress Tommy Dorfman. I need to translate that into real English for you. Man in a dress, Tommy Dorfman, catches fellow plane passenger allegedly sending texts about him mid-flight. Now, see, what is he doing here? If he is seeing if he's seeing someone else's texts, what's he doing? He's got his eyes. He's looking around for something to be offended about. He's looking around. Oh, I wonder if they're texting about me. Oh, let me look at their phone. You know, this required some effort on his part in order to be offended. Okay. Actor who likes to wear a dress, Tommy Dorfman, used social media to call out a fellow traveler who sat next to him on a flight. The 33-year-old, I wish you all the best. I don't think he's a star, but whatever. I had heard of him. I haven't seen anything he was in. Who previously accused a Delta employee of misgendering him. I'm misgendering you right now, dude. Actually, what I'm doing is I'm properly sexing you. Shared photos of multiple texts he said were sent about him by another passenger. Why does he care in the least about what strangers think of him? Why does he need them? Why does he need strangers to affirm him as something he isn't? What's up, dude? What's up here, dude? According to Dorfman, the man copied and pasted the same trans-accurate message to several contacts, degrading him, and complaining about being seated next to him. Oh, so he wasn't even like in the row in front. He was this guy is not respecting the privacy of the passenger sitting next to him. Mr. Dorfman was not respecting the privacy of the man sitting next to him. See, here's what I would do if I was flying regularly in the United States. I would file this away. I would have this. I'd have this like within like a couple of button pushes on my phone, maybe inside a file or something. And if I was seated on a plane next to a person like this, I would get up, consult with the stewardess privately, tell the stewardess or the professional, and tell the stewardess, steward, flight attendant, I like stewardess, that I am not comfortable sitting next to this person because I feel like this person is going to invade my privacy. He's going to look at what's on my phone. He's going to judge me based on maybe I give him, maybe I'm looking at the window and he thinks I'm trying to give him the side eye. I don't feel comfortable. I think that he is going to put me in legal danger, that he is going to judge my behavior in a negative way, and he is going to try to extract money from me for offending him. And even if the steward or stewardess, even if the flight attendant, stewardess, even if the stewardess says, I understand, sir, what would you like me to do? You have any other seats in the plane? No. Would you like to leave the plane? Would you like to exit the plane? I've made my concerns to you known, and if he offends me, if he invades my privacy, I will be sure to inform you. You have to let him know you're uncomfortable. And this guy's already like he was on a flight previously and he whined about someone saying something about him, or someone not referring to him as the man he is. And here he is like looking at the phone of the person next to him and getting offended by a private text that wasn't meant for him. Anyway, I have to read the text now because he's made it public. I am in the first aisle of first class. Guess what is sitting next to me? A effing transsexual in the midst of going from a man to a woman. Just my luck. I was hoping for a hot babe. Now, there are a couple of ways to take this. And if we're going to be like just the most generous about it, he might not have anything against the person being a transsexual. This might just be, a horn dog hoping that he was sitting next to a female, not a male. He, and I'm assuming this is Dorfman, wrote in an Instagram caption on Friday, the audacity. I'm sorry, he's probably got a pretty deep voice, and he probably like thinks he's like a high voice, but it's probably really deep. The audacity of this man, so blatantly blasting off texts about me, only reaffirms the choices I've made for myself to feel safe and comfortable in my body and spirit. You were the nosy a-hole looking at someone else's phone, Mr. Dorfman. He added, we are all allowed to evolve in any way that feels true, and that evolution can expand and contract. Who are you now, Judith Butler? It's always been about alignment and autonomy for my own comfort, not the comfort of others or the expectations of society. Bingo. He just outed himself completely. He's a self-centered prick. Not the comfort of others or the expectations of society. Now listen, if you're not interested in completely fitting into society, fine. I'm not interested in completely fitting into society, not in California, certainly. But this other stuff, what a load of bullshit. Just bullshit. anything that feels true. No, what feels no. You see, the thing is, what you're doing is you're using your emotions to say, well, my biology doesn't matter, and how people see my biology doesn't matter, and what people see when they see me doesn't matter. Actually, it does, though. Wait, I'm going to have to correct myself here. Obviously, it matters because that's what this is all about. He doesn't like the people that are seeing him as a man. And he's trying to say evolution can expand and contract. No, evolution does not expand and contract. Evolution is a theory with a good pile of evidence to go with it about how species change and adapt. What you're doing, Mr. Dorfman, is not evolution. What you're doing is called woman face, and it is just as offensive as blackface. And when he says not the comfort of others, so that's basically saying he's a selfish prick. He does not care about anybody else. He cares about himself. And there's the text. You took a picture of it too, because that's the kind of prick he is. Yeah, see, he thinks this is a sexy look, but this is an asshole look, and you can see it in his eyes. Dorfman stitched a photo of the passenger with a zoomed-in shot of one of his texts, adding the caption, "Someone get your grandpa." I don't know what that means. Another photo in the carousel post showed him texting a woman named Samantha about Dorfman writing, 2.5 hours of sitting next to this freak. Accurate! The recipient of the text replied, "Just remember, many people you love are LGBTQ+, are basically alphabet gang. And this country sucks for them right now. Be kind." Dorfman expressed appreciation by writing over the photo, "Wait, Samantha, illy girl." I don't know what that means. There was also a response to the man saying he'd hoped for a hot babe, which read, "You got one, a brand new one, sent from someone named Dave." So he's getting roasted. This guy sitting next to Dorfman is complaining about being seated next to what am I going to say? Oh yeah, he called him a freak. So let's just use that word, freak. So he's complaining about being seated next to a freak, and one of his male friends is roasting him like, "Ha ha, you got yourself your new hottie, ha ha." The actor, because that's who Dorfman is, he is an actor. He's actually acting all the time, because what's he doing wearing woman face? He's acting like something he isn't. He's pretending to be a man when he isn't. That's acting. Not acting in the same sense as acting on a screen, but still. Also, Dave kind of tore with this, once again expressing his gratitude. Now see, he's reading it the wrong way on purpose. And he knows he's reading it the wrong way on purpose because he knows how guys needle other guys. So, guy number one sitting next to Dorfman's like, "Man, I wish I was sitting next to a hot chick instead of this thing." Guy number two, "You got your hot chick right there, buddy." That was the vibe. The vibe was not what Mr. Dorfman was trying to say. That was the vibe. Dorfman noted in his lengthy message that the choices he'd made in how he expressed himself have come at the cost of safety and comfort in the world, especially in America, and that's not without consequence internally and externally. Again, Dorfman is making this all about him. He acknowledged, "I am lucky to have the life I have, the ability to fly freely, for now, and even post shit like this." He so desperately wants to be an oppressed minority, and he's just another white male, and it kills him. odds are, and I don't know the specifics on his case, but odds are he gets off wearing a dress. Odds are. And he kept taking pictures of the guy's phone. What a prick. No surprise that he's posing with Lena Dunham. Oh, and I guess he was in something called 13 Reasons Why. He decided to share the text messages and his experience on the flight because I can. He went on to describe the passenger as an alt-right vampire. It sounds like he wanted a relationship, doesn't it? And also said, Samantha deserves her flowers. Dorfman also said he spared his online audience the deeply misogynistic and revolting comments the man sitting next to him made about the flight attendants. I'll take things that never happened for 600, Alex. The TV star did not disclose which airline the incident took place on or provide a date. Internet personality Liz Koshy commented, "We love you and we love Samantha." So, yeah, whatever. And this comes more than 2 years after Dorfman faced off with a Delta employee who he said misgendered him. Actually, what she did was correctly sex him in a viral video. He came out in 2021 in an interview with Time magazine. And by the way, as an actor, he was nowhere until he decided to don woman face. And then he started getting more attention. Because up to that point, he was just another white male actor competing in a world where there are a lot of very, very talented white male actors. So what he did was he chose to put on a dress to distinguish himself from the crowd somewhat. And to basically move himself into, as the result of a self-declaration, move himself into the most oppressed class ever. But he said he had been living as basically pretending to live as a woman. He can't be a woman. He doesn't know what being a woman is like. He's never spent one single solitary second in a woman's skin to be able to experience what a woman goes through. All he knows is what it's like to be a man in a dress. That's what he knows. And he'd been living as a woman privately for a year. I don't know, maybe not, but I mean, it probably, he was nowhere as an actor when he decided to start wearing a dress in public, and he managed to get a couple of roles after that. So it worked for that guy who was in Orange Is the New Black. And we might, if I don't like completely peter out before that, we might get to that. Yes, they have, John. Okay, next thing. It's time to make fun of the Bobbies. The Bobbies, of course, being the London police, and I really wish we could still just call them the Bobbies because that is so much cooler than referring to them as London police. Anyway, so John says, yes, the police have completely lost the plot. This is from Yossi Ben Yakar. British police have reached a new low. Let's see. You know what? I'm going to just do this. And we're going to bring this up. 30 officers were sent to arrest a mannequin because it hurt Muslim fifis. This is not satire. The police have completely lost the plot. So this is like a fairly short video, and I don't think there's any music here. So let's get the best. Let's get this up to 720p. Let's go back to the beginning, and here we are.
Excuse me!
30 UK cops just arrested a mannequin because it hurt Muslim feelings? This is the clown world Britain has become. Plastic dolls are now a threat to Islam, but grooming gangs got a free pass.
Grooming gangs got a free pass. I'm going to kill the sound. Yeah. So what's going on here is the doll in question also was holding a sign. And I believe I found a picture of that. And the sign is, and I don't know if I have Getty's permission to do this, but they can go, and we're giving the photographer credit. Thank you, Mark Carrison, for a great photograph. I oppose genocide. I support Palestine action. Okay. So, whoever was holding this mannequin was a pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, pro-Islamic Jihad, pro-Yasser Arafat, pro-Russian propaganda campaigns from the 1960s that recast the people who live who were in Gaza at the time and in the West Bank, that recast them from being Arabs and Egyptians and part of Egypt and part of then Jordan, to being, quote, Palestinians, close quote. You know, the Palestine Liberation Organization was started in 1964, and this was a KGB scheme. This was basically a propaganda scheme. And they installed an Egyptian guy named Yasser Arafat as the head of the PLO. Now, in 1964, Gaza was part of Egypt. In 1964, the West Bank was part of Jordan. So, when they wanted to liberate Palestine, they weren't referring to the West Bank. They weren't referring to the Gaza Strip. They were referring to the destruction of Israel. That's what they were referring to. So this whole idea about Palestinian rights and all that, give me a break. This whole idea about a Palestinian identity, when you do the DNA on the people living in the West Bank today and the people living in Gaza today, you find the vast majority of them in Gaza are from Egypt, from Saudi Arabia, what is today Saudi Arabia and Yemen. There are a handful who are from Muslim portions of Southern Europe. And the profile on people in the West Bank is pretty similar. So we're not talking about a people who have a deep family background or cultural background in that part of the world, in the Levant, in what is present-day Israel, which includes the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. The vast majority of those people are the grandchildren, at best great-great-grandchildren, more likely grandchildren, great-grandchildren of migrants who showed up starting in the probably early 1870s, because that's when the Jews started showing up seriously. And the Edict of Toleration was in 1844. That was the year that the British and the Ottoman Empire signed an agreement and it was actually a series of agreements signed around 1844. The key one has come to be known in many circles as the Edict of Toleration, which allowed Jews to emigrate into the Holy Land for the first time in many centuries. Now, there had been Jews living in the Holy Land throughout the period of Islam. The Muslims had showed up there sometime in the late 7th century, the late 600s, I think, early 700s, somewhere in that range. And they basically locked the Jews out, and locked out other Jews from coming in. And then the Jewish diaspora thing, of course, largely occurred before that. I think I might be a little bit iffy on the details. It may be that they expelled some Jews in the late 600s, early 700s, but there were Jews who remained in Jerusalem and in a handful of other places and not large numbers, but there were some Jews who remained, a few. So the area was never completely devoid of Jews. but Jews couldn't come in because of the different Muslim governments that held this area over a period of centuries. The last group to hold this area before the Young Turks Revolution was the Ottomans. I think they probably lost it during World War I. I'm a little iffy on those details, but I'm not quite so iffy on what happened in the late 1860s, early 1870s. The Jews could start showing up in 1844, and a handful did, but the large immigrations, the Aliyah or Aliyot, I forget the exact Hebrew term, but those really didn't kick into high gear until the late 1860s, early 1870s. And when the Jews showed up in that area, what they found was barren. They found an area that was really completely undeveloped. I mean, it had been developed somewhat by very old standards at some point, but the Ottomans had essentially let it go to seed. It was a backwater. They didn't care about it. So Jews start coming in. Both Ashkenazi, which means the Jews that came in from Europe, and Sephardic, Jews who were kicked out of Arabia, who were kicked out of Yemen, and some who were booted and just had nowhere else to go, and some who came voluntarily. Especially the Ashkenazis, the European Jews, they showed up with ideas, a little bit of money, and not huge amounts of money, a little bit, and particular skills and talents. And so what did they do? They took this area, and by the way, the fact that this area completely gone to seed, this was documented by Mark Twain in Innocents Abroad. He went on and on. He didn't go on and on, but he went into detail about how barren the whole place was. With the extent there were a little settlement here, a little settlement there. Other than that, okay, nothing. So when the Jews started showing up in numbers, they started setting up shop. They started setting up farms because you need food. They started setting up small businesses of various types. And the things that they were setting up required labor. And very quickly, it got around. The word got around in Egypt and in Egypt to the south and in parts east that there were jobs in that part of the whole, that area south of Lebanon, what is today Israel, the Holy Land. The word got around that there were jobs in the Levant, and so Arabs showed up, Egyptians and Arabs from Yemen, Arabia, Egypt, so on, largely those places, showed up, and they showed up in numbers. And so for every Jewish person who emigrated to Israel, there were roughly 2 Arab workers who moved in, because the local population in the late 1860s in that part of the world was tiny. It was in the if they would have been lucky to have like 100,000 total. I'd have to look up the exact numbers, but it was actually very, very low. Certainly not the millions that you see today. And the number of local Syrians, because that was largely, this area was governed by the Ottomans as part of Syria, so they had a local. I forget what they call him, a governor. They might have called him a governor at the time to manage. I guess it might have been called Palestine, whatever they called that area at the time. They had a local administrator, and he reported. The local administrator reported to a higher official, a governor, I think, who was stationed in Damascus. The governor was stationed in Damascus, and the local guy was the local guy for the Levant. south of Lebanon, was reporting to him. And so it was a backwater, and they didn't care. And there were very few people there. And so you have 2 Arabs showing up for every Jew, and the Jews are busy setting up farms, doing irrigation, channeling the water where it needs to go, setting up businesses, and they needed labor, and the Arabs got jobs. And the Arab population grew. Arab slash Yemeni slash Egyptian population grew significantly in the Levant, in Palestine, this area, now present day Israel, grew precipitously during this time. And so and you see this population disparity, the fact there were more Arabs than Jews who had moved in from elsewhere. You see that reflected in after the fall of the Ottoman Empire. You see, and the setup of the British Protectorate for the area by the League of Nations. You see that in the maps that they came up with to figure out, well, where are the Jews, where are the Arabs, who are we giving how much territory to? At first, the idea was that all of historic Palestine, which included a lot of space east of the river, would be for the Jews. The Arabs raised a stink, and so they went back to the river. And then they set up I guess it's the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan. Basically, those guys aren't, the king wasn't really Jordanian, if I recall. Anyway, that's the side story. But so they carved down the territory that would go to Israel to be one side of the river, what to go to the Jews. And then they carved it down further in 1948. And then the Arabs weren't happy with how it was carved down, and they declared war on the Jews. And miraculously, the Jews, who are outnumbered and outgunned, miraculously the Jews managed to win and get themselves a state, and actually ended up taking a significant amount of land that had been in the UN mandate in 1948 given to an Arab state. So I mean, if they just said, okay, fine, we'll take an Arab state, and the Jews will take the Jewish state, and fine, we're good, they would have had a lot more land than they have now, because now they really don't have any. Not west of the river, they don't. And and so this idea that that somehow this area belongs to quote unquote Palestinians, before 1948, the Palestinians were the Jews, and it's in documents from that period too. And you just called it genocide. There was no genocide. There's no genocide in Gaza. There's no genocide in the West Bank. That's all lies. So the fact that a mannequin is holding lies, I think, is chef's kiss. And the idea that the British have lost the plot, I don't know that they arrested the mannequin. I really doubt that they arrested the mannequin. I think what they did was they confiscated the mannequin. And as far as hurting hurting Muslim feelings, the reason Muslim feelings were hurt was because the mannequin was holding an anti-Semitic sign. Yeah. Anyway, so the mannequin was part of a Defend Our Juries protest, displaying signs supporting Palestine action. The problem, instead of arresting the pro-Palestinian protesters, they arrested the mannequin out of concern for offending Muslim sensibilities. That makes sense. It's the UK. That makes sense. Okay. I've done my rant about this. Let's move on. Better late than never, I agree. The day has come, ladies and gentlemen, when we can simply remove the term Islamophobia from our category. From our category. The day has come, ladies and gentlemen, when we can remove the term Islamophobia from our daily vocabulary. The government of Sweden has given us permission. They're not using the word Islamophobia anymore in official documents. They are asking the UK and the EU to do the same thing. And I'm all for it. Because what does Islamophobia literally mean? It literally means fear of Muslims. And when we talk about fear in that area, it's not fear of Muslims as such. It is fear of gangs of young Muslim men doing things that are wildly illegal and offensive to the sensibilities of the locals. They didn't move into the various nations in Europe that they came to in numbers, the UK, Germany, France, so on, Spain. They did not move there with the intention of assimilating. They did not go to France with the intention of becoming French. So I am not terribly sympathetic with their situation if they because we're talking about like a lot of young men showing up, and and what are they doing? Anyway, we can drop Islamophobia. And what was interesting is that I did not know this either. The term Islamophobia was developed in the 1990s by the Muslim Brotherhood and organizations close to them. Why? To copy the term homophobia so that criticism of Islamic ideology was stifled and silenced. Interesting facts about the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood was actually formed in the wake of World War II by the some Arabs and Egyptians, including who was the Islamic religious leader there, who had spent World War II as a guest of that guy. And they actually had an agreement that that after that guy was through dealing with the chosen people in Europe, that they would come to the Holy Land and do the same thing to the chosen people living there. That guy is one of the guys who was behind the starting the Muslim Brotherhood. And the Muslim Brotherhood was started really as an anti-Semitic organization. That is the impetus of the Muslim Brotherhood. So, yeah, I'm done using the word Islamophobia too. Did this. And this was his own personal experience. He has using 14.3.2, and he was using FSD, and the car slowed down for a small bunny on harder examples and adding rewards for better proactive safety. Good deal. Okay, so let me get this in place, and let's go ahead and get this video going. Give me a second here. I want to make sure we have the best. Yeah, we'll leave that up. I don't know if we have any sound or not, but we'll make sure we got the best resolution available here. Okay, so we're going to see 14 seconds. We're going to see what happens. La da da da, great day, great day. Oh my God, there's a rabbit. Ah, but what did it do? What did the car do when it saw the bunny? La da 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 da, great day. It slowed down noticeably. Watch again. Look at the speed limit. Look at the speed the car is going right down here. 26 miles an hour, 25, 24, 21, 20. It slowed down to 20 miles an hour. The rabbit got out of the way, and then it sped back up again. So, the bunny got to live another day, maybe. I think this is what happened to the bunny right here.
You're mine, buddy! You can't escape!
Leave me alive! I'm starving!
You're mine, buddy! You can't escape!
Leave me alive! I'm starving!
Yeah. So the bunny wasn't run over by the car, but that's dinner for the fox. And I'll bet the bunny was tasty too. Oh no, I'm not going to like my own post. That's ridiculous. Anyway, moving on. Moving on. Oh, God. All right. I think I've gone about as far as I want to go today. So I'm just gonna come back. I'm gonna go back to this one. There I am. Got my patriotic shirt, and I'm gonna just go and stare at the camera for this. I'm still putting in my 1,000 hours. I'm still figuring it out, and I'm gonna keep going. If you happen to hang out with me today, if you happen to have done this, thank you so much. I'm still figuring things out, and I appreciate your patience. So I should put in the usual pitch. Let's see, like, follow, subscribe, whatever it is, because different platforms, different rules. So whatever it is you need to do to become notified the next time that I go live, please do that, and please join me next time. Thanks.